After your frame is glued up, we need to sand it. We're going to sand the front face and the back face using this electric sander. The reason that we're using electric sander for this step and not a regular hand sander is because the grain goes in different directions. This is called a random orbital sander. So the way that it works is it spins and shakes at the same time. So you can sand any direction with the grain with this, like in these corners, and it won't scratch it. If we had tried sanding this by hand, um, we're bound to do some sanding that's across the grain, and that's going to scratch it. The purpose of this rough sanding step is just to smooth out these joints so that the front is totally smooth, and smooth out these joints so that the back is totally smooth. If you did a good job with your pocket holes and clamping it down to the table and you assembled it, this will be very fast. If you did not do a good job with that, it may take you a little while. When you're sanding, try to avoid pressing down really hard on the top of the sander. If you push down too hard, you end up putting gouges in your board, and it also is harder on the tool. So keep the sander flat and just keep it moving. Um, this is about all it's going to take on this board. My pocket joints were put together pretty well, and they were pretty even. So that's all it takes. If you run your hand over each joint, you shouldn't be able to feel them at all. Do the same thing on the back side. Make sure those joints are nice and even. Notice how I'm keeping the sander flat, and I'm not pushing down very hard on the top. I'm just using the weight of the sander to sand these things down. Okay, so a couple of minutes on that sander should be all it takes to get nice, even, smooth, and flush boards on top. One other thing we're going to do as part of this rough sanding step is take one of the rough sanding blocks and we'll sand the edges. So when you're sanding the edges, you want to you can hold your frame just off the edge of the table. You want to hold your block square to the side. You don't want to tilt it like this. Keep it nice and square to the side. And you can stand right along each side like that. Now, since we're going in the same direction and we're not crossing grain, the sanding block will work great for this. Also, since this sanding block is nice and flat, keep our edges nice and square and not change those edges like the electric sander would. So you can see maybe 10 or 15 passes on each side, and they're good to go. And then that's all it takes for rough sanding. So as part of this rough sanding step, we're taking out bumps in the joints. We're taking out pencil marks. We're taking out planer marks and any other imperfections or gouges in the wood. Later on, we'll do another step called fine sanding that'll prepare it for finishing.